Welcome back, everyone, to our playthrough of the career mode here in NASCAR Heat 2. So once again, we are skipping by the road course. Now, the race at Watkins Glen, and we'll take a look at the schedule here in just a moment. It wasn't near as bad as the race at Sonoma, but it had some of the same types of characteristics and a lot more beating and banging than I would prefer to have in a race. Some of it was the AI's fault. Some of it, very admittedly, is my fault. But it's just not the kind of thing I want to put on the channel. So once again, I think it's best if we just skip right on by that race and move on to the next one in line, which happens to be at this point, Michigan. So in Michigan, we were just here, it just seems like a few videos ago, and had a great run. We ended up finishing on the podium in third. So now this time we have to decide, do we want to try to go for the same type of finish, get on that podium, maybe even stretch it a little bit further and try to get a win? Or do we want to bring it back down a little bit and maybe shoot for a top 10, top 15? In my mind, I don't want to do any worse as far as the setup goes. I don't want to really hamper our ability to, for the car to rotate and for us to develop speed, simply because we're getting ready for the playoffs. You look on the left-hand side of the screen and you can see that it says 4 races left to the playoffs. So we're getting very close to the end here. We got 4 races left until we get to the playoffs, and then from there it is 10 races for a championship. So at this point, I think it's time to be more ramping up our speed rather than to try to bring it back down. So we've got some decisions to make, but at this point I definitely don't want to slow the car down. Who knows, we might speed it up just a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the setup before we get started with the race. And if you compare this setup to what we used the last time, you'll notice that the only change that I have made is the front weight. I decided to reduce it from 51.0 to 50.5. That should be a very minor change. In this game, in other games, it would be much more of a bigger difference, but in this game that should be a very minor change, and I decided just to make minor changes here. We finished third last time, and I do want to see if we can do at least that, if not better, but I don't really want to make some of the obvious changes that I know could get us there, because I still want this to be very much a struggle. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. All right, folks, here we go. Green flag at Michigan. So we're going to have 26 laps. And we'll see how things go. Once again, at the very beginning, we're going to try to kind of take it easy a little bit. One of the great things about these short races, let's back out of this. I do not want to be stuck right here. I felt a 3 wide coming on. One of the great things about these shorter races is no matter how fast we are, it can be a challenge to get to the front. And even with these setups that we're using, we're still getting a good ways up through the field. I mean, you can see right now, we're blasting our way up through, a good portion of the field before it starts to be a lot more difficult to pass cars, which is pretty much what you would expect in real life, but we're able to do it quite a bit quicker here in the game. Watch out, 34 really out of shape there. Try to give him a little room, let him sort it out. Hopefully he'll return that favor. So we're up to 32nd, and again, just like any other racetrack, anytime you get a lot of cars running very close together like you do here at Michigan, you can pass 2, 3, 4 cars on one straightaway if you can get a good run. Let's see, I'm going to head down to the bottom. Do we take it 4 wide? I say why not? Why not take it 4 wide every once in a while? That's what we're here to do, have some fun. You can see, I mean, we get, even without any sort of draft up here, we get huge runs on these guys. So as I mentioned when we were talking about the setup, I don't expect that Ooh, watch out. That nose weight change is going to make a huge difference. It might help us a little bit, give us a little bit more rotation ability, and because of that, a little bit more speed. I mean, we've only got 26 laps to get to the front. Last time we were able to get all the way up to third. So this time we're going to see if we can do at least the same, if not a little bit better. Car's handling just fine. Ooh-wee. It is tight right now. And the 21, yep, he just keeps coming right over. Alright, so we're going to take it, looks like 3, maybe 4 wide here. We should have a nice run coming off the corner. Let's see if we can't pass some of these cars. Let's see, we were 23rd, I believe, when we came off the corner. Now we're past a couple of cars. See if we can't pass a few more going down the back stretch. Ooh, good run here through 3 and 4. This should really give us a lot of speed on the front stretch if we get a little room here. And it looks like we will. So now we're in the top half of the field. So 20 laps to go. I could barely hear the spotter say. "20 more laps, and I think we're in good shape so far. We've passed half the field in about 6 to 7 laps. We'll try to keep that momentum going as we march our way through, but as you can see in front of me, things really starts to spread out, and that's why it's easier to get to the top 20 than it is to the top 10, again, in this short type of race that we're running, simply because you get to a certain point where you could be running fast laps, but there's just not as many cars to pass nearby. So you spend more time trying to chase down cars than you do actually trying to pass cars. And I can see all the way in front of us. I assume the last guy I saw up there was the leader, and it's going to be a stretch to think that we could, even running some really good laps here, that we could catch them. As you can see way out there in the distance, just about to head into turn 1, that's going to be a lot of room to make up. So we'll accept that challenge and see how close to that we can get. Alright, so the 24 car is going to run us all the way down to the white line. Ooh, watch out, Danica. She was going to try to throw the block on, but not right now. Not feeling like I want to let that happen. Good idea on her part to try to keep her position, but a little early in the race for that kind of thing. Alright, so really tight going into turn 1, but I was pressing the issue pretty hard there, trying to drive it in as deep as I could. Always testing things out, see how much I can get by with this particular setup. Alright, so we're up to 12, so we're just outside the top 10, and we're not quite to halfway through the race. And it looks like these guys are starting to bunch back up a little bit. Which is both good and bad. Good because you can pass multiple cars at one time. Bad because, well, we know the kind of issues we've had with the AI. Alright, so I feel like we're making some really good progress, and again, it's all going to come down. I keep my eye on the leader out there, just trying to see, okay, can I tell that we're getting any closer? And we are, but are we going to have enough time? That's the real question. Ooh, really good run there. I come back to about half throttle that time. No brake of any kind. I've got my left foot resting on the brake, which brings up an odd point for me, because I noticed that several years ago that when I sim race, I race very different with the pedals than I do whenever I'm driving in real life. When I'm driving in real life, I do not use both feet. And yes, I'm talking about using a stick shift or a manual transmission. I do not use both feet for, one for the throttle, one for the brake in real life, but I do exactly that when I'm sim racing. And part of it, I think, has to do with the pedals and the way they're arranged and that type of thing. It's much harder for me to get my right foot from the gas to the brake in sim racing, but I do it quite naturally in real life in the car. So just thought that was weird that I do things so very differently in sim racing than I do in real life. Part of me would really like to ramp it up and get as close as I could to a realistic setup with the brakes and all that, in pedal placement, everything like that in a sim racing rig, just so I could see if I could drive it the same way I do in real life, or if it would be very different still. But yeah, in real life, it would never occur to me to try to use my left foot to brake. I'm so used to using that for the clutch to change gears that it just would never occur to me to use my left foot to brake with. But yet in sim racing, my left foot stays on the brake all the time. Alright, so we are now up inside the top 10, just past halfway, ready to start lap number 16, 11 laps to go. So we're marching our way through. We're getting there. I mean, you can see we're gaining on Denny Hamlin quite a bit in a very short amount of time. But again, the question is, are we going to run out of speed or run out of laps? And so we should be able to dispose of Denny Hamlin pretty quick here. We should be able to get down into turn 1, hopefully, and make the pass in that spot. Let's see, really tight there. He may be able to keep in front of us. Let's see what he's got. There we go. I couldn't see him. All right, so no, he's still there. All right, I could hear him getting back in the gas, and he was very aggressive to the throttle. All right, here we go again. Let's see what we got. Try to run this high side, keep all the momentum we can. All right, looks like we may get him finally. He put up a good fight, a couple laps. He was right there with us. And now we're going to try to see if we can't move on and catch that group in front, which you can see has about, what is that, 5 cars they've got up there? Hard to tell. So obviously, if we can get to and pass all of those cars, that would get us onto the podium, which is where we were last time. And then I see, looks like a couple of cars out in front of that. So we got our work cut out for us, even just to equal our finishing position from the last race. And of course, these guys running side by side should help us get up closer to them quicker. All right, 7 more laps. So we're definitely, I mean, we're almost there. Then we'll have to figure out how we're going to do this, whether we're going to try to go high or low. And I can tell you, low will be the better option. Because you could see when we were dealing with Denny Hamlin that with the restrictions we have on the setup, going high is difficult because we just don't have that extra speed that we would normally have. So I'm going to try to stick with low. Okay, we made those 2 passes. And we should have a good run on Keselowski as well. I'm going to try to get out of it early because I'm not sure. We haven't been running right behind guys on the bottom that much, so I'm not sure how much these guys actually slow down in the corners. And I would prefer not to have any contact with these guys. Again, trying to go in really low, slide up the track a little bit in front of these guys. Alright, so I know somebody's on our outside, don't remember who, but I'm hoping that over the next couple of corners we can finish up with that pass and get moving on. Looks like that was Logano out there. Alright, so we're up to third. And now it'll be a question of how many laps left? 4 laps. Alright, do we have enough time to chase these guys down in front of us? I think we've got the speed. And again, we'll try to visually track these guys and see if we're getting closer and closer to them. And particularly if they start fighting with one another, that should help us out. Definitely feels like we're getting closer to them. And as we get closer, I'll try to catch what little bit of draft I can. Alright, just want these guys to fight as much as they can in front of us, give us a chance to catch them, and see if maybe on the last lap or so we have an opportunity to go for the victory. Whenever you're running short races like this, a lot of times the finishing position can vary quite a bit, even if you use the same setup and drive it the same way, simply because a lot of this matters when you catch cars on the track and how much it affects your speed and whether they're running 2 and 3 wide. Because sometimes we've seen it happen several times during this career mode that you might come up on a group of cars and they're basically blocking the track for you and making it very difficult to pass. So you might take a lap or 2 before you can get past much slower cars. Alright, unfortunately it is the last lap and I don't think we're going to be able to do anything with them. But that doesn't of course mean that I'm giving up. Because there is a small chance that I'm holding on to that we can do something with them coming out of turn 4. But I'm going to have to really pack it down into turn 3. Woo, watch out. Alright, it's stuck, but we're still not going to be quite close enough to make a move. We need a few more laps. So the question of, do we run out of speed or run out of laps? We ran out of laps. So we'll bring it home third. Definitely not a bad run at all. I like those kind of races where at the very end you're still running down cars. So Kurt Busch brings home the victory, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that's his first victory. So I believe that will actually lock him into the playoffs, but we'll have to get back to, let's see. Yes, looks like we now have 9 drivers with a victory, and Kurt Busch would make the 9th driver. So not bad at all. That's now going to bring us down to 3 races left to go until the playoffs. And next up, let's see where we're headed. Where we headed? Oh, we're headed to Bristol. Oh boy. Now Bristol is its own deal. There's nothing quite like Bristol anywhere that I've ever seen, any racetracks I've seen. So that'll be in our next video. For now, we'll leave it here. We had a great race at Michigan. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned for more NASCAR Heat 2.